When you stop contacting a man, everything changes. See, a lot of people don't realize how powerful silence is. You think your presence makes the difference, but sometimes it's your absence that does the talking. When you pull your energy back, when you stop chasing, stop calling, stop checking in, that man is going to do one of two things, and both will tell you everything you need to know. The first thing he might do is nothing. And I mean absolutely nothing. No message, no call, no hey, just checking on you. Nothing. It'll feel cold at first, like your presence didn't even matter. But pay attention. That silence is not rejection. It's revelation. It's showing you who he really was when you weren't feeding him attention. Some men only stay when you make it easy. They like the comfort of knowing you'll always be there waiting, always the one reaching out, always the one keeping the connection alive. When you stop doing that, when you stop fueling that one-sided energy, you'll see how quickly that connection disappears. That's not love. That's convenience. And you don't need to fight for someone who's comfortable losing you. Now, the second thing he might do, he'll come running, and not just casually, he'll feel your distance like a void. Because the truth is, men feel absence more than they feel words. They might not listen when you say, I'm tired, or I'm done trying. But when you actually step back, when your name stops popping up on his phone, when your energy isn't there to comfort his ego, suddenly he feels it. He'll start calling. He'll start texting. He'll start showing up in ways he never did before. That's not magic. That's realization. He's realizing what it felt like to be chosen, and now he's realizing what it feels like not to be. Silence exposes truth. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to prove your worth. When you stop contacting a man, you're not playing games. You're reclaiming your power. You're saying, if you value me, you'll show it. If you don't, I'll know. And that's how you win without ever saying a word. Because attention from the wrong man is a distraction, but distance from him is protection. So when you stop reaching out, when you stop trying to force what's not flowing, understand this. You're not losing anything. You're just making space for clarity. He'll either fade away, proving he was never really yours to begin with, or he'll step up, proving that sometimes it takes losing access to appreciate the value. Either way, your silence is speaking louder than any message you could ever send. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you have when it comes to relationships and self-respect. People often underestimate what silence can do because they're used to proving themselves through words, explanations, and constant reassurance. But silence speaks volumes, and it reveals more about others than any conversation ever could. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop chasing, and when you stop trying to be understood by someone who chooses not to understand you, you give space for truth to show itself. Silence is not weakness, it's awareness. It's the ability to control your emotions instead of letting them control you. It's about knowing when speaking will no longer bring understanding, and when quiet will tell you more than words ever will. When you choose silence, you begin to see things clearly. You start to notice who checks in when you're not available, who asks how you're doing when you haven't said a word, who shows effort when your energy is no longer being given freely. People reveal themselves in silence because it forces them to act without your influence. When you stop talking, stop reaching, and stop filling the space with energy, you allow someone else's true nature to surface. Silence strips away the noise of excuses, the distractions of mixed signals, and the manipulation of charm. What's left is truth, pure, unfiltered, and sometimes uncomfortable truth. Many people are afraid of silence because it feels like uncertainty. It feels like losing control. But in reality, silence is control. It's the moment when you stop trying to steer the situation and let reality show its hand. It's when you find out if the person on the other end actually values you, or if they were only entertained by the sound of your effort. You learn quickly who's there for you and who's there for the attention you provide. That's why silence is a test that doesn't require words. It requires discipline. Discipline to not respond, to not react, to not beg for clarity that time and distance will naturally reveal. Silence also creates respect. When you stop over-explaining, people start to wonder what's going on in your mind. They start to question what they did, why your energy shifted, and how they lost your presence. You take your power back when you stop giving constant access to your emotions. Silence shows that you are grounded enough to let things play out without forcing outcomes. It shows that you are secure enough not to need immediate reassurance. It teaches others that your energy is earned, not owed. The more you speak, the more people think they can talk their way out of accountability. But when you stay quiet, they are forced to face themselves. Silence also gives you time to reflect. It allows you to separate emotional impulse from rational understanding. You get to see things from a higher perspective, not from hurt or anger, but from clarity. And when you see clearly, you stop chasing what's confusing. You stop fighting for what doesn't reciprocate. You realize that silence is not about ignoring someone. It's about choosing yourself enough to stop explaining why you deserve respect. A man's reaction to your absence tells you everything you need to know about his heart, his priorities, and his intentions. When you stop calling, stop texting, stop showing up, and remove your energy from the equation, you're no longer feeding his comfort. That's when you begin to see who he really is without your effort holding everything together. Some men only stay connected because you make it easy. You're the one keeping the energy alive, and the moment you stop doing that, the truth starts to surface. His reaction will either confirm his interest or expose his indifference. You won't need to ask where you stand because silence will make it clear. When your presence disappears, a man who truly values you will feel it. He won't sit comfortably in the quiet. He'll notice that something's missing. The calls, the laughter, the little moments that only you provided. That absence stirs something in him because your energy once filled a space in his life that can't easily be replaced. He'll start wondering if he took you for granted, if he ignored your effort, if he thought your presence was guaranteed. That's when you see his true investment. Does he reach out? Does he check in? Does he try to fix what he let slip away? His actions during your absence reveal more honesty than his words ever could. On the other hand, if he stays silent too, if he disappears completely without even acknowledging your distance, then you have your answer. It's painful but freeing, because a man who can go days or weeks without wondering where you are, without caring if you're okay, without missing the connection you had, was never really invested in you. You were more emotionally present than he ever was. Your absence didn't bother him because your presence never mattered to him in the first place. And that truth might sting, but it also sets you free. You don't have to chase, question, or beg for attention that was never yours to begin with. The way a man reacts to distance shows how much effort he's willing to put in when things aren't convenient. Anyone can enjoy attention when it's easily available. The real test is what happens when it's gone. If he values you, he'll show up without hesitation. If he doesn't, he'll fade into the background because he only valued what you gave, not who you are. Absence is like a mirror. It reflects everything you need to see. When you stop trying to hold a man's attention, you give him the space to reveal whether he was ever truly interested or just entertained by the energy you provided. You don't have to chase that answer. It comes naturally when you step back, because energy doesn't lie. When it's gone, the people who cared will move toward you, and the ones who didn't will stay exactly where they are. That's why a man's reaction to your absence is the purest truth you'll ever get. If he does nothing when you stop contacting him, that tells you everything about where you stood in his life. It means the connection existed because you were the one holding it together. You were the one checking in, keeping the conversations alive, and showing effort when he wasn't. Some men get comfortable in that space. They get used to your presence, to the way you care, to the way you make them feel seen without them ever having to do the same for you. So when you finally pull back, they don't fight for you, they don't reach out, they don't ask what went wrong. They simply go quiet because your absence only removed the attention they took for granted, not something they truly valued. It's painful to see it, but it's also powerful because it removes all the illusions about what you thought it was. When a man does nothing, he's not confused. He's not too busy. He's not trying to give you space. He's showing you that the connection mattered more to you than it did to him. It's not that he doesn't notice your silence. He does. He just doesn't feel moved enough to respond to it. That's why your distance is not the problem. It's the revelation. You start to see how one-sided it always was. Every time you sent the first message, every time you asked to meet, every time you showed care without it being returned, you were feeding something that wasn't feeding you back. And when you stop, it's not that he lost interest. It's that the effort was never mutual. It's easy to think that maybe he's testing you or waiting for you to reach out again, but the truth is, someone who cares doesn't stay silent for long. They don't risk losing someone who mattered. They don't wait to be missed. They make sure they're not forgotten. So when he does nothing, that's your closure. You don't need a long conversation or a dramatic ending. His inaction speaks louder than any explanation he could give, because effort is the language of care. If it's missing, the message is clear. A man who does nothing when you walk away was only there for what you provided, not for who you were. He enjoyed the comfort, not the connection. And the moment you stopped providing that comfort, there was nothing left to keep him there. That's why silence is powerful. It removes your effort from people who never earned it. You realize that you don't have to beg for effort. You don't have to chase someone who doesn't move for you. If he doesn't reach out when you pull back, you don't lose anything. You just see the truth. His lack of action becomes your clarity, and that clarity gives you peace. Because sometimes the loudest answer you'll ever get from a man is his silence when you stop talking. If he comes back when you stop contacting him, it means your absence made him realize something your presence couldn't. Sometimes a man needs the silence to feel the weight of what he's lost. When you were always available, always the one initiating, always showing care, he never had to question what he meant to you. You gave freely, and because it came so easily, he took it for granted. But when you step back, when your name stops lighting up his phone, when your energy no longer surrounds him, that's when he starts to notice the void. It's not about the messages or the calls you used to send. It's about the feeling he got from knowing you were there. And when that feeling disappears, it wakes him up. He starts to miss the peace, the comfort, and the validation that came from your presence. And that's what pulls him back towards you. When a man truly values you, your distance doesn't just confuse him. It pushes him into reflection. He starts to think about the things he did wrong, the moments he brushed you off, and the times he didn't appreciate what he had. Your silence becomes the mirror that forces him to face himself. It's not your job to make him see your worth. Your absence does that for you. Because when someone is used to your energy and suddenly loses access to it, they feel the shift deep inside. They realize that what they thought was replaceable actually wasn't. That's when the calls start coming in, the messages appear, the efforts you were waiting for finally show up. Not because you demanded them, but because he finally felt what life was like without you. Sometimes it's not until you stop reaching out that a man understands your importance. He begins to see how rare your consistency was, how genuine your intentions were, and how much you added to his peace. Your distance becomes the reminder that not everyone gives that kind of love, not everyone stays that loyal, and not everyone carries that kind of presence. He starts chasing not just because he misses the connection, but because he realizes the value of it. You become the one that got too quiet to forget. That silence becomes louder in his mind than any words you could have spoken. But it's important to understand what his return really means. Sometimes he comes back because he truly sees your worth, but other times he comes back because he misses the comfort you brought. That's why you have to watch his actions, not his apologies. Does he come back changed, ready to show effort, or just curious to see if you'll still be there waiting? Your absence taught him a lesson. Now his return shows if he learned it. Because a man who truly values what he lost will not risk losing it again. He will step up, not just show up. And when he does, it's not because you chased him. It's because he finally realized what chasing you meant. Pulling back is not a game, it's a statement. It's not about manipulation or trying to make someone chase you. It's about reclaiming your peace and your power. When you stop reaching out, you're not playing hard to get. You're choosing to be at peace with what's meant for you. You're showing that your energy is valuable and that you're no longer going to pour it into places where it's not appreciated. There comes a moment when you get tired of explaining your worth, tired of repeating what you need, tired of trying to make someone see what they're pretending not to notice. That's when you stop forcing it. Pulling back isn't about punishing anyone. It's about protecting yourself. It's about giving yourself the space to see things clearly without the fog of emotion blurring your judgment. When you pull back, you regain control of your emotions. You stop reacting to every message, every mood swing, every inconsistency. You stop giving your peace away for the sake of connection. You learn that real strength doesn't always come from saying something. Sometimes it comes from saying nothing at all. You stop trying to convince someone of your value because you finally believe in it yourself. Pulling back is the moment you shift from chasing validation to protecting your energy. You begin to understand that your attention is not something people are entitled to. It's something they earn through respect, effort, and consistency. When you stop trying to control outcomes, you let things fall where they belong. If someone truly cares, they'll feel your distance and they'll move toward you. If they don't, they'll let the silence continue, and that will tell you everything. You no longer have to force closure because the response to your pullback gives you the answers you were looking for. Sometimes your silence brings the truth to the surface faster than your words ever could. When you pull back, you create a space for people to show who they are without your influence. You stop carrying the relationship on your shoulders and start observing who's willing to carry it with you. Pulling back also gives you perspective. You begin to notice how much energy you were giving out just to keep something alive that wasn't growing. You start to feel the peace that comes when you stop fighting for something that was never meant to be forced. You realize that love isn't supposed to drain you, and attention isn't supposed to feel like a reward. It's supposed to flow naturally. When it doesn't, pulling back is how you protect yourself from emotional exhaustion. It's how you teach people that access to you is not permanent, it's a privilege. And in that quiet space, you start healing. You stop overthinking what you did wrong and start recognizing what you allowed. You stop waiting for someone to see your value and start living in a way that reflects it. Pulling back isn't losing someone else. It's finding yourself again. It's remembering that peace is worth more than attention and self-respect is worth more than being chosen halfway. Distance brings clarity in ways that constant conversation never can. When you step back from someone, when you stop calling, texting, or checking in, you finally get to see the relationship for what it truly is. Distance reveals whether the bond was genuine or just built on convenience. It removes all the distractions, the words, the promises, the excuses, and replaces them with action or silence. People can say anything when they have your attention, but when they no longer have access to you, their true priorities come to light. Distance has a way of showing you who values you enough to close the gap and who was only there because you made things easy for them. When you give space, you're not trying to punish anyone, you're trying to protect your peace. It's about choosing to step away from confusion and emotional noise so you can hear your own thoughts clearly. So often, when you're too close to someone, you can't see the truth because you're focused on what you want it to be. You're emotionally invested, so you justify their behavior. You make excuses, you keep hoping they'll change. But distance strips all that away. When you take a step back, you see things as they are, not as you wish they were. You notice who actually reaches out, who puts effort into staying connected, and who disappears once you stop doing the work. Distance also gives you emotional strength. It reminds you that you don't need to cling to anyone to have value. You begin to realize that love isn't about proximity, it's about effort. If someone truly wants to be in your life, they'll find a way to stay close, no matter how much space you create. And if they don't, then your distance simply saved you from wasting more energy on someone who was never willing to meet you halfway. Clarity doesn't always come from talking things through. Sometimes it comes from walking away long enough to see who follows. Taking distance teaches you that peace feels better than confusion. It allows you to reconnect with yourself instead of chasing someone else's attention. You start to feel lighter, calmer, more grounded. You realize how much emotional weight you were carrying just by constantly